Hey there, I'm Lainey Lipsky, parenting coach and master teacher. Parenting is hard. I totally get it, and I'm here to make it easier for you. Especially if you had a tough childhood or you've got a tough child now, I've got your back. So take a deep breath, relax, and check out this clip from my coaching group this week. And remember to hit like and subscribe if you like my vibe. Let's get started. The question for me is always around, is this still serving me in my adult life in a way that works for me? So much of what we had to figure out as kids, so much, especially if we went through pain as kids, one kind of pain or another, but if things were confusing or things were painful and we sorted it out in our little young brain, we made meaning. We connected a meaning to it. We connected a story, or we couldn't, had some reason for it, right? The classic scenario is when parents get divorced and the kid makes sense of it, the divorce, because it's so painful, they make sense of it by saying, oh, it was my fault. It was my fault my parents got divorced. That's just, I'm not saying that's true for you. I'm just saying that's a classic thing that happens to little kids because they have no other way of understanding it. So it must be their fault because that's a simple way to go, right? But when you push that, that gets locked in, right, with painful experiences, because that's how trauma works, emotional trauma or otherwise, it gets locked in at that moment. And so if the belief continues throughout that person's life as they get older, they may believe that when somebody leaves them, or when a relationship ends, any relationship ends, or anything ends, a job, whatever, it's their fault also, because they've never questioned the original belief that was locked into place, that the seed that was planted at that painful moment in time. So the question to me is less about, is it normal for things to change? I know that's your question. And so, yes, it is normal for it to change based on experience. And the more interesting inquiry is this still serving me? And if this belief is still serving me, okay, great. Like no problem, no harm, no foul. But if a belief that we have been holding for so long, or a way of thinking about things that we've been holding on to for so long, is creating problems in our current life, keeping us from being close to people, or making us more judgmental than we want to be, or making us just more irritable than we want to be, or less successful than we want to be, or less aligned and graceful in our own lives and light and happy, then that's worth looking at and unpacking what those beliefs are. So sure, I mean, I'm a big, barring like really like outlier things that go on when people have like real mental illness, even mental illness, I put in this, but like psychosis level stuff, pretty much everything is normal, Like it's very rare to have something that has never happened before. It could be rare, but it's all normal. And growing up is whatever happened, happened. And those are things that we carry with us. But if you're struggling with stuff now, it can make you question, like, is this normal? Like, is it just me, or like other people go through? The chances are really high that it's not just you and that is normal. So the default thought there that I would love for you to have is, this is probably normal. And, I'm just wondering if this is, something anything about, right? Can we get curious about? Connecting to what's true for you and trusting your intuition is really important. It's really important to know when you are listening to yourself. And like a lot of people, they work this out of their kids from a very young age in the service of having them be braver, let's just say, right? Like, I'll never forget this. Last year, my kids were part of a lifeguard training program. And part of the program was they walk out onto this pier, and it's high up, really high up, and they have to jump into the water below them and then swim to shore. And it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. And um, my kids, they both did it. I was, if they didn't want to do it, I would have been just as proud of them. But there was one kid Everybody else was going, everybody else was going. This one kid really, he was like shaking and he really didn't want to do it. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, like I don't want him to do it. I want him to listen to himself, even though it's everyone else is fine and he would probably be fine. Like so much more important to listen to himself. His dad, on the other hand, didn't feel that same way. And his dad was yelling, he's like, you can do this, don't be a wimp. And his dad was so disappointed with his kid when he marched his kid off that bridge and the pier. And the kid was probably 10. And I know that the dad wanted him to do it because he knew the chances were really high that the kid would be fine and the kid would feel better about himself after he did it, whatever. This dad took it so personally. And he was so mad at his son. And I wanted to just put my arms around them and say, like, I'm so like, what a brave thing that your son just did by not doing the thing that everybody else was doing and that everybody was pushing him to do. And he really listened to himself. Like, I get chills talking about that right now. Like, what amazing bravery to say, no, this is not for me in the face of everybody else saying yes, right? Like, who was the braver kid there? The kid who probably felt the way he did and did it anyway, or him who was like, I'm not doing it, right? I don't know. And I don't judge either way, but I just wanted that dad and that son to feel proud of his decision and to feel okay with listening to himself. That's what my wish was for them on that day. When people do this when kids are younger, their kid is afraid of going down the slide and they're like, well, he's really scared and should he do it scared? There's a whole like hashtag out there, do it scared, don't let fear stop you. Well, I don't know about that. If a kid is really scared, isn't that listening to his or her inner voice? Isn't that listening to their strength of fear? And could they then do other things that are less scary and build up to that? Sure. And maybe they're the kid who's just who's more cautious. Isn't that learning to listen to their inner voice and trusting themselves to say, like, that's too scary for me? I know up here that I'll be fine if I go down that slide. I see all the kids going down. All, the parents are like, see, Johnny's going down and Sarah's going down and Olivia's going down. You can do it too. Your child knows up here, but they're not feeling it here. And we talked about this another time in coaching when our thoughts and our hearts are not aligned, when we're trying to convince ourselves to feel something that we're not feeling, or our heart is feeling something and our head is like just totally dismissing it and doing it anyway, it creates a discord. It creates a lack of confidence. That's the outcome, is that then we don't trust ourselves and our kids don't trust themselves. And believe me, I have a kid who's about to, start driving. Like, my kids are older now, and my kids are going to be going to high school parties sooner than later. I want my kids to know if they're feeling something, to trust their instincts. And if we start talking them out of their instincts early on, where does that lead them later on? It leads to a person who's like, you've been around these people as adults, right? I don't know what I want. When you go out to dinner with them, I don't know what I like. I don't know if this looks good on me. I don't know what to do. I'll just go along with whatever because they don't know. So you want your kids to be the kid at the party who's like, just because everybody else is like getting drunk right now and then hopping into their cars or whatever they're doing, doesn't mean I have to do it. You want that kid to be like, I know what it feels like to say no and to not do it when everybody else is, and everybody else is egging me on. So you go high school party, the college party, when everyone's like, chanting and having them drink or do stupid hazing stuff for frats, you want your kid to be the one who's like checking with themselves, no. Or yes. Like, if it's a yes to do something, hopefully not not dangerous or stupid, um, but to know where they stand and to go with that and not be so easily swayed. Think about all the times when our kids are younger and you see, we're told to do this. We're told to do this as parents, to say, to our kids if they're not joining the group to be like, look, everybody else is going over and whatever, swimming. Don't you want to swim? Don't you want to be doing what the whole group is? Like, why? Why would we teach that to our kids from so early on? Unless your child is really like has social difficulties and you're trying to get them more and more engaged with social situations, it's a different story. But in general, like, why? Why do we talk our kids out of their instincts from a young age? And then we wonder why they don't have a sense of who they are as they get older. It makes no sense for us to do that, but it makes sense how we accidentally raise insecure kids, not knowing where they stand. I really hope this video was helpful to you. Feel free to share it and use the comments to ask a question or to request a topic for the future. We've got links below for free support with things like discipline, teaching your kids how to be more gritty, and how to be more patient with your kids, plus access to my free coaching group. So be sure to check those links out. And remember, we get one shot at parenthood. Our kids only get one shot at their childhood, so let's make it count. Click like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.